Hello, Flute Examiner followers. Keith here with another interview. Today, one of the sweetest, most humble individuals you could possibly
Oh,
imagine ever meeting, Kelly
oh,
Vi. Welcome, Kelly.
oh, thank you. And now I won't be able to talk.
And just like I said in the email leading up to this, say your last name because I've heard it pronounced about 1,000 different ways.
I'm sure you have, and I have too. It's Vi. So
Great.
it's like VI, long A. I mean, long I, the A is silent. I hear via probably 99% of the time, and it just goes right over my head.
Well,
So
I
as
figured
long
it
as
was
it's addressing me, I'm okay.
Well, I figured because it was kind of a thing that's been going on for years that I've heard, we'd clear it up right away. So welcome. So
Thank you.
we've known each other for quite a few years. So this is always just
Yes.
this is a pleasure to get to sit down and just chat with friends. Um, so
Yes.
so we're gonna go through a list of questions like I always have for these interviews, and
Okay.
just tell us what you want to tell us. So this past
Okay.
fall, you and I ran into each other again at Drake University
Oh,
um,
yes.
on the Drake Flute Day, hosted by Dr. Leslie Mars, a friend of both
Yes.
of ours. Um, and you got into a story about your very humble beginnings in early life. So, can you kind of share some of that story with our followers?
Well, sure. I don't know how far you want me to go back, but um, I am a minister's son. So we moved a lot. And I think the longest I ever lived anywhere was 4 years. So I was born in Texas. We lived in Bristol, Tennessee, Albany, Georgia, Manchester, Tennessee, Bradenton, Florida, Albany, Georgia. And then my mom and dad moved to Douglasville. I was already starting college, and I was very fortunate to end up at Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa. So that was a miracle in itself because it was such a fluke the way it happened. Um, like a lot of people in my generation, after high school graduation, you went to the local community college for 2 years and transferred. And we were in Albany, Georgia when I graduated from high school. So I went to Albany Junior College, and they actually had a very good music program. And my second year, my sophomore year, we had a new teacher who came in to teach flute and clarinet. His name was Dr. Wayne Morey. And I knew what I wanted, Keith. I just didn't know how to get there. I really didn't have a lot of guidance in high school. So Dr. Morey really kind of took me under his wing. He had filled in for Dr. James Luke, the clarinet professor at Drake University, for his sabbatical the year before he joined us. And he said, I think you would be a good fit with Dr. Nathan Jones, who was the flute professor. So he arranged for me to record an audition, got me in touch with Dr. Jones. I was accepted. And in the fall of 1974, I ended up in Des Moines, Iowa for the first time in my life. And it was just the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
Wonderful. Yeah, I know. It was kind of like you said, it was kind of like a homecoming coming back to the school after so many
It
years.
was very much.
Yeah.
And in fact, I told the group it didn't hit me till I got off the plane that I had arrived in Des Moines 50 years ago last fall.
Wow.
So it was almost overwhelming. The emotions that just kind of flowed over me that whole weekend, going back into the music building, going to the Performing Arts Hall, the band room. We rehearsed in the band room, and I think of how many hours I was in that band room. Dr. Jones' office, where his office was, it was a lot, but it was a beautiful, beautiful experience. I still kind of feel like I was in a dream when I was there. So it was incredible.
And I remember you specifically saying, if I remember correctly, the something about the chapel was not even open to the public when you were there.
Uh, Slow auditorium was boarded up,
Yeah. And that's where we
and
did our final concert.
it was gorgeous. I mean, I saw the inside of it once. I don't know how we managed to do this, but I remember Dr. Jones showing a couple of us the inside of that hall, and it was dark and in disrepair, and now it's just a beautiful, beautiful concert hall. So that was a lot.
Yeah, they really did a nice job because it was a nice space acoustically. So,
Gorgeous. Absolutely.
so how did you get your start into arranging and composing, especially for flute choir? But
Yeah. Well, um, of course, when I was at school, there were no flute choirs, at least that we knew of. And while I was a student, and I could talk a little bit about this too, Keith. While I was at Drake, I experienced a pretty catastrophic um, health issue where I actually had to relearn how to walk, how to play, how to do everything. Um, but while I was there, Dr. Jones had asked four of us to play a Bois Mortier quintet with him on one of his recitals. And I had played some flute trios and some quartets, but I'd never played a piece with five flutes. And we were all just, wow, this is so amazing. And that was my first introduction to like a larger flute ensemble. And the following year, he invited, I think there were three of us current students and a graduate who had an alto flute.
oh wow.
And we played the quintet by De Lorenzo, and we had never seen an alto flute before. And we were all just, oh my God, an alto flute. So that was a great experience. And I was on third flute, which doubled piccolo, and piccolo's always been my thing. So we had piccolo through alto flute. So that was another big wow moment. And my senior year, we went to the Iowa Flute Fair at the University of Iowa, and Dr. Betty Bang Mather was the flute professor at that time.
Yeah.
And we were in the audience, and out comes a flute ensemble with seven players that included a bass flute. And at that time, this is probably spring of 1976. We'd never seen a bass flute. And I mean, you could just hear the whole audience just gasp when they came out. So I can't remember the composer, Keith, I'm getting old, but I remember the name of the piece was called Changes. And we were just all mesmerized by the sound of piccolo through bass flute. And of course, everybody was just riveted on that bass flute. So that kind of started it. Since I was not ready to go to graduate school right away, I stayed in Des Moines for actually 6 years after I graduated. And part of that was regaining my strength, getting stronger as a player, relearning to play. And then I worked into some teaching and some performing, and I taught at Simpson College, south of Des Moines. And so I started including my students in my faculty recitals. We did some Bois Mortier pieces. I discovered Monochrome 1 by Peter Schickele. We played that piece, which three flutes, double piccolo. That got me started. And when I applied for graduate schools, I was accepted to East Carolina University. And part of my assistantship was directing the flute choir. And so I got to play a bass flute for the first time. The school had two altos and a bass. I was in heaven. And so for 2 years, that's where it all started for me. It was in graduate school.
Amazing.
So I got the flute choir bug, and obviously I still have it.
Nice. Yeah,
There's
it's
nothing like that.
yeah, that was not flute choirs weren't really all that big at that point.
Oh no, not at all. And of course, when I went to graduate school, it was 1982. So by that time, the door was opening. Um, Amy Rice had started Alry,
Mhm.
was promoting flute choirs, and there was more and more music available. Um, and that's when I started searching for new music. The school had a library, but it was a lot of transcriptions, and I wanted to get some of the latest. So, Keith, that's where it all started.
Amazing. And as I mentioned earlier, uh, Ginger is trying to be part of this interview.
I love
Yeah, so
that.
kids and animals. She's doing everything she can to distract me from our interview at the moment.
That's okay. You can put the camera on her for all I care.
No, well, she's just so the viewers can see, this is our new little monster.
She is
She is she is
adorable.
doing her best to get into trouble. Um, so, but yeah, no, that's amazing because I know a colleague of mine is doing some research specifically focused on low flutes, and we talked about the bass flute didn't really even come around till the 50s, so it was still really new, and that's why a lot of
Oh,
people were staring at it.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, the first time I actually played one was when I arrived on campus at East Carolina.
Which is
So,
crazy. But yeah, at the same looks I get with the contrabass at this point.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So we've come a long way.
we really have. So, who this is kind of a complex question, but and feel free to dismantle it as you'd like. Who would be a significant role model for you? Do you have any people in your life that had a significant part to play in your career, past or current? And what composers influence you the most? So
Oh, wow. That is
you
rather
can
complex.
you can pick and choose from that however you'd like.
Well, um, first, I have a lot to owe to high school band directors. My real inspiration started in Bradenton, Florida. We lived there when I was 8th through 10th grade. The band programs in Bradenton, it was Walker Junior High and Manatee High School, were amazing. And so that's where my real passion started. Band director's name was Robert Greatwood. Um, of course, Wayne Morey, that I mentioned earlier, helped put me on the right path. And something, Keith, you probably did not know, actually, flute is my second instrument. I had started on the oboe and actually entered college as an oboe major. Flute was my marching instrument.
I
So,
I actually did know that.
yeah. So I couldn't decide. We were in Manchester, Tennessee. Band did not start till seventh grade, and I could not decide between oboe and flute. So the band director said, "Kelly, we really need a good oboe player." So I started on the oboe, and then took up flute in the summer between eighth and ninth grade for marching band. Um, so Wayne Morey helped put me on the path by directing me to Drake University. Dr. Nathan Jones, I may get a little emotional. Um, I wouldn't be here without him. He corrected so many things because I never had a teacher in high school. And especially with flute being my second instrument, you ask older students, how do you finger this? How do you trill this? And all
Mhm.
that. So I learned a lot of wrong information. And he corrected a lot of things in my playing, and guided me, um, both in technical facility on the flute as well as just putting my heart and soul into the music itself. And then when I was paralyzed with Guillain-Barré syndrome, um, and that was my second semester, Keith.
Oh,
Um, all of a sudden, I lost all of my motor abilities. I was having trouble climbing stairs. I couldn't carry my tray in the cafeteria. The day I went to the hospital, I had gotten in the car and I couldn't shift gears. And my roommate took me to the hospital. It took him 3 days to figure out what was going on with me. In the meantime, I'm just losing all of my motor abilities. So I ended up in a wheelchair. I couldn't play, couldn't walk. I was in the hospital 2 weeks. And then when I got out of the hospital, Drake at that time had 2 weeks spring break. So my dad flew up. The school wanted me to withdraw. So my dad flew up and he and Dr. Jones went to talk to the dean of the School of Music, the Department of Music rather. And Dr. Jones said, I can teach him how to play again. So they let me stay in school. And literally he took me from, and I remember it so well, I'd been working on the Poulenc Sonata and the Hindemith Sonata, and all of a sudden I'm in Rubank Elementary. I could hold the piccolo. I couldn't hold the flute, but I could hold the piccolo if I put my elbow on the arm of the wheelchair and I rested this arm on my chest, and I learned how to play again on the piccolo. So if I'd have been anywhere else, I don't know what I'd be doing right now. So first and foremost, Dr. Nathan Jones, it's just always going to be in my heart. My teacher at East Carolina University, actually she was not a doctor, Ms. Beatrice Chauncey, took me to the next level. And after graduate school, it was then, now what? So
That's
my
the big
mom and dad,
question, isn't it?
yeah, for everybody, right? So I had applied to a couple of doctoral programs, and at the same time, a small college in Washington State had an opening for flute and double reeds. And since I had played oboe, I thought, this has my name all over it. I applied. There was something like 250 applicants for that job. So I decided not to go to get my PhD. My parents had moved to a town west of Atlanta. So going home on breaks, I got to learn a little bit about Atlanta and thought, I'd really like to live there. So I moved to Atlanta. I didn't know a soul. After a while, I started taking lessons with Paul Britton, who was second flute with the Atlanta Symphony for many, many, many years. He was just what I needed at that time. He kicked my butt from one side of his studio to the other. And that really set me on the right path. Because for a while, I have to admit, there was a period I put my flute on the shelf in my closet for 6 weeks and didn't touch it. And then I realized, this is really stupid. You've gone all the way through this. So I contacted him, started lessons. So those are the three biggest influences in my life.
Those are quite profound influences. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's important that we acknowledge the people that did that one thing that just kept us on the path or got us onto the right path. So I think it's so important. So as far as like, I mean, you literally, like I said, you blended two questions together. We talked about those hurdles. You've had some quite huge hurdles to get over, and here you are, very successful, well known.
Still,
the better known you are, the more that people mispronounce your name. So it kind of rolls into this other third question that you kind of touched on it, but let's emphasize it. Is there a specific moment that defined you as a musician? I mean, we've talked about these hurdles and how things have kind of shifted to keep you on the path, but
Right.
the actual musician, composer, arranger, conductor that you are, was there one specific moment where you're like, this is what
Mm.
I want to be, this is who I want to be?
Well, I think part of it was, Keith, after I had taken that step of just, okay, putting my flute up on a shelf. Um, and I was making my living working in offices. The only other thing that I could do beside music is I type very fast. So I I was working full time in offices to make a living. So I think maybe the big turning point was 2 years after I moved here. The third flute piccolo position opened up with the Atlanta Ballet. I had been taking lessons, and I signed up to take that audition. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know anyone in the music field. I had played in a wind ensemble at a local college, like a community wind ensemble. I auditioned for that the year after I got here, so I was playing. But I took that audition. I didn't know a soul. Um, I made the final round, and I played that second audition. And I mean, my whole goal was I just wanted something to work for, and I just wanted to go in and play my best. And I got a phone call telling me I got that job, and I just couldn't believe it. So I think that is what really defined, yes, this is what I want to do. And by winning that audition, doors started opening for me. I got called in to sub with the Atlanta Pops Orchestra and never left until the conductor died about 11 years later. And during that time period, the piccolo position opened in the Macon Symphony. I took that audition. Um, so it was about 7 years before I could really make a living in teaching and playing. Um, a friend recommended me to teach at the Atlanta Music Academy, and I interviewed for it, started teaching there. That was 1991, and I'm still teaching at the Atlanta Music Academy.
Amazing.
So that's what opened the door.
Wonderful. That's a great story. And you know that all it takes is that one win and it can totally
Yes,
change your angle. So yeah,
yes,
that's amazing. So here,
yeah.
so you and I both know you're very humble and you don't like to brag, but I'm gonna ask you to brag.
Oh
Of
no.
all the music you've arranged and composed, what is your favorite piece? And is there a piece that has some very significant meaning to you?
That's a pretty deep question, Keith.
That's the only kind I ask.
And I don't have a huge repertoire as far as my work. I have 13 pieces that have been published. And I'm working on one that will be published this year. I'm very excited about. But I think of the pieces, I would say my favorite would have to be Appalachian Suite.
Mm.
Uh, that was in 2004, and I think that there are a couple of reasons why I would say that. The first movement is called Wayfaring Stranger, and that is because my mother used to sing that song to me as a lullaby. So that tune was in my head my entire life. So I decided I wanted to do something with that piece, and that started it. And Nancy Norris had taken me under her wing with my very first piece that she heard at the Atlanta convention in 1999. Um, I had a little student flute choir I had put together in 1998, starting with just my own students. And we got to play a lobby concert at the convention. And most of my students were Korean, and there was no music that had any Korean background to it. So I had arranged two folk songs for flute choir, and we played them. And Nancy Norris was there and heard it. And we talked, and she said, "You know, I really like your piece. And if you will arrange a third folk song, I'll publish it." So I went to work and found a third folk song and published it. So that's how I got started. And Nancy was so gracious to take me when I didn't really know what I was doing. So Appalachian Suite was my fifth piece. And I think the reason it's my favorite not only is because it has that song that my mother sang to me, and the piece is dedicated to my parents, Jerry and Sue, but I started taking more risks and going in some different directions. I've been playing it safe with my first four pieces. So I started experimenting more with meter changes and harmonizations. And I don't know if you know the piece. In the fourth movement, we tune the strings of a fiddle and incorporating pitch bending and all that kind of thing. So I'd say that has to be my favorite because it allowed me to go off and explore a little bit more.
I believe our flute choir here, Iowa City Flute Choir, I think we did that 2 years ago on concert because I definitely remember it and it was a favorite. For
That's good.
me, so and we're gonna get into this. It's a couple questions away, but I might switch it.
Okay.
So you may recall a couple years ago this new flute choir starting up with the NFA called the LGBTQIA plus flute choir.
Yes, 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 yes.
And Your America the Beautiful was programmed. And I will never forget measure 5 when the contra comes in on a low F, the voicing of that chord. George Pope said it's like chocolate. So,
oh wow,
yeah,
the
it's your ear for how to voice the chords and really create that sound. I mean, even in the simplest of a measure 5 of America the Beautiful, when the chord really opens up, you just know how to hit it just right. So for me, that piece sticks out of that entire concert. That's the piece that sticks out to me because of that one measure.
Well,
So yeah,
that means a lot to me. I wrote that piece because I was so devastated with 9/11.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I had to do something. And so that's how that particular arrangement came about. I felt for the first time what it really means to be patriotic. And so that's a result of that devastation that so many young people, of course, cannot comprehend.
Yeah.
So that's how that piece came around. And talking about the contrabass, Keith, my first two pieces did not have a contrabass part. And it was the 1999 convention that I think most of us saw contrabass flute for the first time. And it was with the Venezuelan Flute Orchestra. And it was kind of the reaction that we had many years ago at University of Iowa when we saw bass flute. It was like, oh. And so my first two pieces didn't have a contra part. By the third one, people were starting to get the instruments. And so Nancy said, "Kelly, you really need to put a contrabass part in here." So all of my contrabass parts have been optional. No offense, Keith.
It's okay.
A lot of groups like my own, we don't have a contra, although Mercer is going to get me a contrabass now. But so all my contrabass parts have been optional, and it was kind of weird writing for an instrument I really didn't know much about. So that means a lot to me.
Oh, it was just beautiful. The way the color shifts when the full choir starts to come in on measure 5 is just breathtaking.
You've made my day already.
So since we already mentioned it, so
Okay.
we've shared a few measures and a few years of involvement with the National Flute Association's LGBTQIA plus flute choir. which is now a standard ensemble at the NFA conventions.
Fourth year.
Yeah, yeah, and so what was it like to perform with that group, and specifically the pre-gala concert that you conducted?
Oh gosh, that was amazing, and you know it. I mean,
I
you
was
were
there.
there.
Yeah.
I don't think I have ever experienced so much love in a performance setting ever. We started playing, we had kind of a small crowd. First of all, kudos to every single member of that group, because everybody had the music ahead of time. And I mean, everybody showed up prepared to that very first rehearsal. I think, Keith, I think we only had 3 rehearsals.
I
And
believe, yeah.
they were short.
Yeah.
And we had a big program. So, I mean, everybody showed up, everybody was prepared. The very first note of the first rehearsal, I was blown away with the sound. And it was an amazing group. And it all just came together in that concert. And I think everybody in the group felt it. And then by the time we finished, it looked like we had hundreds of people gathered around to hear us play. So that was an incredible, incredible moment.
Yeah, I remember looking out and seeing that there were people coming in to come to the gala concert, and they couldn't even get in because the lobby had filled up, standing room only. And I think that might have been the moment they realized we needed our own concert time. Is
Yes.
But it was a beautiful lobby to play in, and
Oh, it was like a concert hall in itself.
absolutely. What was it like for you to have so many heavy hitter rock stars under your baton? I mean,
It
the
was,
likes of
I've never experienced anything like it. It was tremendous,
it
absolutely tremendous.
was like an all-star cast.
It was an all-star
And
cast.
and with George standing behind me, a little bit of a stand-up comedy show. Um,
A little bit.
yeah, well, the Peanut Gallery has its 2 cents. Love you, George.
I remember seeing a fan come out a number of times during that concert from George Pope. Yes.
Absolutely did. Absolutely did. Well, and another one of our colleagues from that ensemble, Aaron Spencer, is my interview for next month. So
Oh, excellent.
yeah,
Excellent.
so we'll have that coming up too, and so it's reach out to your friends and abuse them wisely.
Well, her piece was breathtaking.
We just did that piece uh, in our flute choir this past year, and it was a hit. So,
It is breathtaking.
and for those
And
of you watching, we will discuss that with Erin when we see her. It's a great piece. Stay tuned for next month.
yes, absolutely.
But
And I'm looking forward to. I hope I'm going to get to play this year, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited she's conducting the group this year.
yes, and that's another thing. You guys kind of tie together back-to-back interviews. And last year I got to stand next to Nancy Norris, with whom we love, and you've already mentioned was a very big
Yeah,
supporter of you. And
absolutely.
her research was very important to my dissertation. So she is a cornerstone, and
Oh yes.
she's on my list too.
Well, and Nancy has also been an inspiration and just has guided me, offered me all kinds of advice through the years to help me get started on the path. And I'm very, very, very proud to say I'm associated with Norsewind Productions, publications, I should say. I'm sorry.
She's a very unassuming powerhouse that you wouldn't know her when you walk by, but she's done so much for the flute community. And she was in the contra section with me at the LGBTQIA plus flute choir, and we both had to joke because we're both piccolo players.
Yes.
And how far we have fallen,
Oh,
literally and figuratively.
right.
So
Well, Nancy's been just terrific, and I'm just so grateful that she saw something in me that she felt she could give me a chance. And I'm forever grateful to Nancy Norris.
Well, a lot of us are thankful for her contributions.
Yes.
So if you could talk to, this question, it's kind of standard, but if you could go back and talk to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself? I mean, we'll keep it simple, like one or two things, but like specifically like thinking back to what you dealt with in your younger years, what would you say to yourself to help keep yourself motivated and positive?
Well, um, I was kind of sheltered. Um, Being a preacher's kid is not easy. So I did live in a goldfish bowl. And I knew that I was a little different. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I knew I was a little different. I had other interests than most boys my age. Um, I was extremely interested in music. Um, and that started very early. When I was 4 years old, we lived next door to a lady who was a piano teacher, and I used to go sit on the front porch and listen to her teach lessons all afternoon. So it started there. And then when I got into band, um, and especially when I started taking up flute, I was teased and incessantly. Um, I was always small. I didn't realize it till people started telling me, but I was always thin, small stature. So I was teased and bullied a lot. And then when I started playing flute, of course, it escalated. So I guess I would tell that younger self that I just needed to stay focused and pursue what was important to me and completely disregard what I was hearing and feeling from others around me that didn't understand me or who I was, and just to let it go and go after what was important to me. So I guess that's it in a nutshell.
It's great advice. And Kelly Clarkson sings, "What doesn't kill us makes us stronger."
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And and
Yes.
and Frozen, "Let It Go."
You know,
Gotta
Frozen.
gotta bring some pop culture into this. Um, so two more questions and then we'll finish up here. But so
Okay.
if you didn't go into the field of music, what would you want to be when you grow up?
I have no idea, Keith. I really don't know. I mean, my interests were always different. I liked art. I like photography. I mean, everything that I like is just not something that's really easy to make a living with. So I honestly don't know what I would have done. I guess I would have just depended on my typing skills and that would have been it. I don't know what I would have pursued.
And
It was always
that's an excellent answer. I mean, that's true passion for what you do. So that's wonderful.
always that is true.
All right,
That is,
here it is. The moment you've
okay.
been dreading.
Oh no.
Brag a bit. Tell us what's coming on the future. You have a piece that's premiering in August.
I
Tell
do.
us what stuff you've got coming down the pipeline that we should watch out for.
Keith, I am really excited about this. I think I took some time off from writing, and I think most people who know me know that I've been dealing with cancer for 13 years now. First time was 2012. That really did a number on me, and I stepped away from writing. I just felt like I lost a big part of myself, and I started getting it back. And this would have been during COVID. And Julie Suey with West Michigan Orchestra, Flute Orchestra, had asked me, would I consider writing a piece based on a hymn? And I knew that was the right thing for me to tackle to get back into it. And it was very specific. There were three hymns to choose from, and one of them was Abide with Me. And remember, I'm a preacher's son.
Mm-hmm.
And that particular hymn really spoke to me. And the interesting thing, Keith, I grew up in the Church of Christ. There's no instrumental music at all in the worship service. So I never I never got to play my flute in church. But I built a piece around Abide with Me, meditation on Abide with Me, a very emotional journey. And that was published in 2021, I believe. Um, so that got me to the point where I think I can do this again. And I still have another piece that I need to finish. But Chris Potter contacted me last fall and asked if I would be interested in writing something for low flute choir. And at the time, I'd already been thinking about one of my pieces that I would love to hear in low flutes, and that's by Kells Waters. And Chris even mentioned that. She said, if you don't want to write, something original, maybe consider rearranging something you've already done. And even mentioned by Kells Waters. And so I was like, well, Chris, I've already been thinking about that. So I'm finishing it up now. And I just have a few more little details to add into it before I can ship it off to Nancy and Matt Johnston. But a version of By Kells Waters for low flute choir will be played by the Pro Low Flute Choir this coming August. So
Congratulations.
I'm really excited about it, Keith. I think this is the way this piece was meant to be. And it's just totally a coincidence that it's happening on the 25th anniversary of that piece. So the instrumentation is 4 altos, 2 bass, contralto, and contrabass.
Wow.
Completely rewrote the bass contra parts. I'm really excited about it. So that's coming out in August.
Wow. Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
that's a
I'm
great
excited.
piece. I've played the flute choir, and so the low flutes, I can see how that just brings a whole new color to it. So
It does. It really
that'll
does. And I hope people will recognize that my writing style has progressed in 25 years. So this is the way I think it should have been all along. And I'm grateful that Chris even asked me about this. So I'm very excited about it.
That's wonderful. And so you will be at the convention this August?
I will be there with bells on.
Well,
Yes.
I encourage people to come up and say hello.
I would love to meet. I know a lot of people, and if I don't know you, I want to know you.
And that's one of the wonderful things about you, of the long list of wonderful things about you. So
Oh, Keith,
I
I
th
won't be able to get my head through the door. Okay.
well, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to interview you because um people who know you know what a wonderful, sincere person you are. And those who don't know you very much are very familiar with the pieces you've done with for flute choir. So they know you, but they don't know you. And so I wanted to bring you out and just say, this is Kelly, so that they know a little bit more about you and they can connect more with the pieces you've written.
Okay, thank you so much. This is a totally new experience. I told you I've not done anything like this before. And you're just such a great guy and so easygoing. And it really is an honor. I'm so grateful that you thought of me and you gave me this chance. I appreciate
Absolutely. Absolutely. We want to give people credit and get to know people, or at least help others get to know the people that are really supportive of the flute community, especially cornerstones in education and teachers, performers. So yeah, as soon as we ran into each other at Drake, I was like, I have to do this. This has to happen. And so we finally got it through, and I appreciate you taking the time out to do the interview with us. So thank
it.
you.
It's such a pleasure, and thank you very much. And I'll look forward to seeing you and everybody else at the convention. And I also want to put in a plug. I am very, very fortunate to work with incredible, incredible flutists at Mercer University. And the Mercer University Choir is playing on Thursday evening, a pre-gala concert. I am so very proud of this group. So I just had to throw my little plug out there for the Mercer Flute Choir.
Absolutely. And if anybody who's watching this is at the convention, fill up that recital hall for them.
We're in a lobby pre-gala.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Fill up the audience. They need the support. So, well, Kelly, thank you very much for submitting to my questioning. And well, I look forward to seeing you in NFA, my friend. Love you very much.
I love you, and I can't wait to see you.
All right. Bye, Flute Examiner friends.